Thank you for tuning in to Koppen with Comic. I'm Brian Koppen, and we're here with comic Ritch Duncan. Ritch Duncan, how the hell are you?
For a guy who's sitting in a basement in Astoria on a Sunday afternoon, I gotta say, within that subset, I'm doing fantastic.
I'm about as good as I could be.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean...
Think of more the people who are in small rooms in Astoria right now today. You got your torture victims, you're destitute, the...
People struck with coronavirus.
Sure.
And so where can people find you? Do you stand-up comedy or, I suppose, comic writing in New York City? And where can they find you online? Are you Ritch Duncan across all social platforms?
It's Richie D on Twitter with a T.
Richie D? Ow! Yeah, I think I follow you. You're a good follow on Twitter. You are slinging the Twitter jokes.
Yes, yes. Always slinging the Twitter jokes. That's the methadone to the heroin of stand-up, when you can't get out there.
Because you were at True TV. Are you able to talk about that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, you were at True TV for a long time, and
Right.
then they kind of figured out that maybe being a comic destination wasn't lucrative enough for them.
Well, I think it had less to do with what they really wanted to do, and more with the phone company bought them. AT&T bought bought all of Turner Broadcasting, and then became the company with the most debt in the world. And then when they were like, if we had to cut salary somewhere. What's this channel that has the Carbonaro effect? But I mean, True TV was a great gig. They had wonderful people there, and we really built this awesome comedy brand over, 5 years. I mean, out of nowhere. And you look at what has happened to TV, ratings for everybody were sliding, were going down. The idea of even a brand of, like a television brand was sort of ridiculous. Like the idea is if you stream everything and you get everything from different areas, does a television brand mean anything?
Yeah.
And it was really an exciting time to kind of come in and work with the Impractical Jokers. We started with them from the very beginning.
Oh, wow.
And that was sort of the canary in the coal mine. It was like, hey, comedy could work. And we brought in, like, Guy Branum had an awesome show on there. John Glazer Loves Gear. The first season of that, if you can look it up, was terrifically funny.
Okay.
The guys from the Grolics did a great show about schools called Those Who Can't. There was just really interesting comedy going on there for, I'd say, 5 years. And then,
if it hadn't been bought out or laden with debt, it could have been just fine. You would have had more runway with which to play with.
I think the overall atmosphere of television was there was just way too much television out there. I genuinely believe that half of the really good comedy shows that were on True TV, if they had been on a channel that had a little bit more traction, True TV used to be Court TV. And then Court TV, in fact, if you look at the logo, look at the words in TRU, it's actually the Court TV logo, like, mixed up. It's the exact same font. Like, that's what...
You guys are just so funny. You're like, let's recycle this motherfucker.
Well, the funny thing is like, that you can totally see, like, the copywriting meeting where they're like, how are they going to handle the transition? What will they do? No, we'll keep the font the same, and then it'll be easy. Wow. So, I'm sure that... But I mean, that's big corporate TV America, and everybody cycles around, and everybody who was working over there had worked for Viacom at one point, or worked for Showtime or whatever it was,
And so now you're just slinging the jokes on Twitter, but you're also freelancing, you're also doing writing, and then people are still asking you routinely to do stand-up, and you'll do it when asked.
Yes, when asked. I love doing it here at QED. I find that to be just this is just Cambry and Christian and I go way back, and this is. I like to think that I was sort of in Christian's school, like
cool.
his class.
His graduating class,
his class,
Sure.
We were all hitting the same open mics at the same time, the surf reality, the alternative comedy scene back when that was Rebar, not when that was,
Yeah, what is it now?
Who knows? Jesus. I'm telling you, I looked at I looked at your podcast. I was like, oh, let me see these podcasts. And I looked at all of the acts, and I knew, like, Sue Funk and, like, one other person. And it was I have no idea. Because people just keep doing comedy. You think when you're a comedian, you're like, well, if I stop doing it, it goes away, right? It stops. It does not. There's always another busload.
I figure out how juiced in a comic is by how long they'll talk to Christian and Cambria upstairs. Like today there was a party up there, so of course I had we just kind of skipped past the whole thing. But I think one time I got here early and Brian McGinnis was already here. He was already chatting up Christian. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm opening for him next week." And I'm like, "Okay, well you're juiced in." But yeah, that's so funny. If I stop, everybody will stop, right? Like the graduating class really holds true, right? Nobody else can graduate after me, can they?
Yeah, I know. There is this sort of, and there is that realization at some point where you're like, oh wait, just because that person got something, it doesn't mean that if I don't do anything, it will also come to me. And
so and I think that this kind of brings us to one of our topics, which you suggested, and I love the fact that we're both a little bit older, but you're getting to the point in time where you start saying to yourself, "This might be the last time I do this particular thing."
You mean like anything?
Yeah, anything.
Right. Yeah,
not comedy.
I don't know. Because that's also true.
Oh no,
that's also true. I feel like there will never be a complete withdrawal from stand-up. I mean,
right.
it was too much a part of my identity for too long.
Oh, okay.
You're right. The thing that when you are 46, like you can think to yourself like, all right, what am I gonna vomit? Like 11 more times? You know what I mean? Like how many?
That's right? 1 out of 11. Only 10 more to go. That's
right.
Great. Yeah.
And also it leads to these things, and you like if someone actually gave you a number. Then you start thinking, like if somehow there was an omniscient being that's like, yeah, you're having pot roast 18 more times, then you're dead. That's it.
I love the fact that the omniscient being will deign to be like, I'm going to quantify things for you. You'll have 10 more pot roasts, you'll have 3 more vomits, and 2 of them will be related.
Yeah. Yes.
And then one other thing is you're raising a 10-year-old, and so what's parenting like, and how do you juggle that with the demands of true TV back in the past, or freelancing now, or doing stand-up gigs? And what's it like? Like his or her outlook is probably diametrically opposed to your own, because everything that child is doing
daughter,
is
10-year-old, yeah.
The daughter, everything that she's doing is probably the first time out of 1,000. She's going to have 1,000 more pot roasts, and you'll have 10 more, and hopefully you'll share a couple of those.
I don't know.
Together.
She's dragged her feet on pot roast. I think we both might be at an even 10.
If she has her way, it'll only be 10, right?
Right. And then the flip side of that too, I also like is like the cumulative aspect of it. Like if I could go. Like after I'm dead, if I could go into a giant room and be like, here's all the strawberries you ate. And I'm like, oh my God.
That's
and then
genius.
There's like 5 plums. You know what I mean? Like, really? Only 5? My whole life? Just 5.
I love that. Do you think the afterlife is like that at all?
I hope so.
Is there an afterlife? And if so, do we get any, I was always thinking, okay, if there is an afterlife and I go into the good place and I'm given any control over what happens in the good place would be like this. But of course it would be based on things that I enjoyed during life. And
you would think.
the afterlife could be so much better. It's like, no, you can have 24/7 orgasms if you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, but I really want to do this thing that I enjoyed during life. It's like, do you understand that what you can do in the afterlife it could be so much better? What's the afterlife? Is there an afterlife? And are we going to have any control about eating all the strawberries or plums or plums in the room?
There's no there's no afterlife.
Okay.
No. But I think but my fantasy of there being an afterlife would be that all of recorded history can be viewed from any angle once you're dead.
That's cool.
So you'd go up there and people, if you would like to refer to it as heaven, they'd be like, well, I mean, you can go look at your relatives if you want to, you know what I mean?
But of course, you might look at something else.
Right. You want to find out what happened to JFK? Come on, let's go. You want to see the coolest Tyrannosaurus Rex Triceratops fight in the entire Cretaceous period? I'm probably getting the period wrong. You know what I mean? But I got it. We have it. We know where it is.
Yeah, let's fire it up. And I would almost think that you could do a nice piece of freelance writing based on that. Have you?
No.
Okay,
Actually, you know what?
Where would you pitch that?
I probably should pitch something like that, but here's my thing about. I do have a couple of story ideas, and I'm writing a kid's book right now, which I'm not going to tell you about because this is exactly it. When you said, "Oh, would you ever do a piece of writing about this?"
Yeah.
I'm such a comic at heart that once I tell somebody the funny idea, right, and that gets a laugh. Literally, I'm like, oh well, that's good enough.
I got one laugh.
I can stop. Yeah, I can stop now. That was fun. I created an idea, put it out into the world, got the feedback loop, and I'm done. Sweet.
Instead of writing,
why sit around and write that thing?
A children's book to considerable acclaim and money and fame and success. If you got the one laugh in the room, you're fine.
It's just laugh to laugh for me, man. It's just get them while you can.
Okay, but the children's book, I guess we won't talk about what the premise is, but what kind of in raising your daughter led you to believe that, hey, this comic thing lends itself well to a perfect children's book or to an optimal one. Like the books you were reading to your daughter just suck so much ass that you're like, I can do it better. In what way?
Honestly, it wasn't that they suck ass. It was, I mean, although there are some, she has some that are series, and you can, and like they're without impugning children's book authors, but like you do find like books 1 and 2, you're like, oh yeah, there's something here, and then like there's 15 of them, and it's a little, so I mean there is that lucrative aspect just as a writer where you think, if I had something that caught a little fire, there's absolutely no reason you couldn't, continue to churn out something like this.
And they will photocopy 13 more.
The children's books that kind of really got me sitting down and thinking that this could be an interesting thing to approach as a comedian was not because things were bad though. It's those old Roald Dahl books. They're just wild. They're really, really funny. They get to the point so fast, and like. I mean, the premises are nuts. the adults are absolutely horrible, you know, and they'll like. I mean, I think it's James and the Giant Peach, where like the parents are killed by a rhinoceros on like in the second paragraph,
and the kid's totally fine with that.
Yeah, well, and then he's shipped off to the horrible ant, and you see, with the trees that don't grow, and you know what I mean. It's just like this, and then at the end of chapter 1, I'm pretty sure James has had his parents killed, who he liked, has a miserable life, hates his step aunts, and is literally weeping. He's just over weeping. And so what I found...
Yeah, I love that you're bringing this up as an example of why you want to write children's books.
Well,
he's weeping by the end. He kills his parents, which is what I love and need in a children's book.
I mean, I think that's what a lot of people think, though, is if you're going to be doing a children's book, it needs to be safe, it needs to be antiseptic. And I think if you find some of the best ones, they do find ways of sort of showing a kid, teaching a kid that that the world is a scary place, but in a fun way.
Yeah, here's how bad it can be. They will be killed, but it'll be killed by something cool. You like dinosaurs, don't you?
I mean, it's your parents are killed by a rampaging rhinoceros.
Yeah,
like you're gonna smile because that's so silly, but you're also kind of reinforcing that death is a thing and that is out there and that is, so...
well, that's cool because at least the kid reading it will get the, be like, okay, well, first of all, his parents died. That was weird. That was by a dinosaur. That's kind of cool. But what's this death thing? You can kind of... It might be an opportunity for, a teaching moment for Ritch Duncan.
And, also for someone who's creating any kind of protagonist, if you have a kid in a book... eliminating the parents. It's really rare when you look at in almost every Disney movie, the parents are dead immediately.
Because do we think that's where imagination starts? It's like the kid in the room, and they're actually doing a lot of pretend. And so they're like, okay, well, if I could, I'm here in my room, I'm in my own little universe where there's no parents. What do I want to imagine?
Well, that's it. Because in almost every children's book, if the parents were there, it's like a cell phone in a horror movie. You know what I mean? Like it's if you have that option, you're going to take advantage of it. So it's you got to eliminate the parents from the children so you raise the stakes and allow them to make choices, really.
So, I mean, it sounds like you have this thing fully formed in your brain, and how long does it take you to bang out a children's book? And is it going to be illustrated in a quality way like James and the Giant Peach? That's probably a little bit harder.
I would, I definitely have the world and the story and the protagonist and this out there. In terms of illustration, I do go back and forth because I have so much sort of raw story. I wonder, could this be a graphic novel? I haven't bumped into the perfect artist that I've seen that, I think if I did, it could very easily lend itself to being a graphic novel to, I guess I was sort of thinking children's book just because that's what's littered all over my couch right now, that's, how long would it take me to do one? I think,
maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah,
You're like, I'm Ritch Duncan, man. I'm bigger than this fucking sport. True TV, have you heard of it?
I just got a little bit of a laugh from you on that, so now I don't have to do it at all. I know.
Fuck. And then do we think that it was so, James and the Giant Peach was kind of so out there, and maybe that, you almost have to do your book to remain that inventive and anti-parent, I guess. You'd have to go around the system. Like, do you think that along the way, if you go to a big publishing house, they're going to sanitize the fuck out of it?
I feel like in this day and age, and the only way I've ever been able to write is to write what I, I mean, this isn't a situation, like I wrote a book about, the how-to book about werewolves with Bob Powers.
Yeah. That
This
looks
about
hilarious.
10 years ago. Yeah,
Okay.
it's called The Werewolf's Guide to Life, and it basically was, if you get bit by a werewolf, this is what you do. This is how you tie yourself up. This is how much meat you need. And we basically, and at the time, my wife was pregnant when I was writing this.
Okay.
So I had What to Expect When You're Expecting right there, which is all about how your body changes when this horrible thing happens. And so really, I was just cribbing in that book it was basically what to expect when you expect to become a werewolf. That was sort of, my point is with the children's book thing is that book came to me. Like Bob was given the offer to do the book. I had written a blog about werewolves that was funny. And so he had said, he got this opportunity to write this book.
I need a werewolf consult.
And he said, I'll write it if I can work with this guy. And it ended up being, a really lucrative thing that's, the book itself got optioned. It obviously nothing ever happened to it. But then
it's still on Amazon getting great reviews.
They
can buy it right now.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, like you're like, what should I do next? Let me look at whatever's on my couch. It could be a children's book. It could be what to expect when you're expecting, and you're just going to write a funny version of that.
Maybe that's it. It's really just I just have intense ADD, and it's like, what's my next project? Brian's water bottle. It's going to be a screenplay.
But now that Brian laughed at it, it's ruined.
No, I
got
know.
my laugh.
Perfect. Done.
Okay, so they're going to see across all social platforms to see where they can buy the book, because I think I found a link to Amazon there.
Yeah.
The werewolf book.
Yeah.
And then and are you Richie D on Twitter?
Richie D on Twitter, yeah.
Richie D on Twitter, and then Ritch Duncan. You also have a website too, right?
I have a website that has like portfolio of copywriting, and the time I got to flip off someone from the True TV Twitter handle, and
That's what people want to see.
They do. Yeah.
That's the Ritch Duncan they know and love.
Yes.
Ritch Duncan, thank you so much.
You got it, man.